Hi, this is Steve here from sci-fi-funk.com, and I'm going to take you through programming the Roland SH-101. This was the first synthesizer I ever bought back in 1984 with my first wage packet. So it means a lot to me, and this is the original model that I bought back then. So I think the reason, apart from its great sound, is the reason this is so popular is because it's so straightforward to program. It's an analog synthesizer, so you've got sliders and pots to use. Everything that comprises the sound is immediately accessible and very visual. I'm going to take you through the components, but let's start perhaps at this end with the envelope end. You've got the traditional ADSR. If I was to set it at its most basic, let's just zoom in here, then you'd just have an on-off signal. So no attack, that's the A, no decay, that's the D, full-on sustain, so that gives you maximum volume, although of course it works at any volume, and no release. So now I won't explain the rest of the parameters for the time being, but if I'm just playing, it's on and off, on and off. I could then add attack to it, and now it takes a little bit of time before the note comes on. So that's off. Now the astute amongst you will notice that for filter sweeps a lengthy attack might be a lot of fun. I'll get onto that later. So let's go, now let's turn everything off. And I'm not getting any noise. Let's just give it a little bit of decay, and what that's saying is no attack, and then take a little bit of time before going back down to zero, no sound. Take longer. You'll notice now it doesn't sound any difference between that and that. Well, okay, slight difference in it's slightly more on-offy with the sustain, but essentially it's the same thing. So I could now combine attack and decay, and the thing will fade down to zero because I've got sustain at zero. See, I've shortened the decay and it fades down to zero quicker. The final component of the envelope is the release, and if I were to have it off as I've got at the moment, the note just finishes as soon as I've let go of it. But if I put a bit of release on, now the thing carries on for a bit longer. If I put a load of release on, I just pressed the key and took it off there, and it's going to take forever to finish. So they are the main components of the envelope, but the Roland SH-101 combines this basic concept with the way the envelope relates to the sound. And what you're doing, you've got gate plus trig, gate and LFO. Now at this point I should explain that I'm giving you how to program this thing from a musician's point of view rather than a complete tech head's point of view, because I want to concentrate on how that relates to your music. So I can't hope to cover every possible combination. That's the beauty of synthesis, is that keep experimenting and you always find something new. But in terms of a basic concept, the difference between gate plus trig and gate is probably best summarized by applying the arpeggiator, which means you can hold down notes and it will repeat them for you. So I'm holding down C, E and G on gate plus trig, and each time a new note is played, it triggers the envelope again. So you see the shape there being repeated over and over. If I went to just gate, that fresh trigger doesn't happen. So now if I press the same three keys, C and G, oh, hang on, it fades down to zero because the envelope is being applied once. If I select it to LFO, then it's going to reply in tandem with the frequency of the LFO, low frequency oscillator. So in this case, they're actually giving you the same sound. But I'm probably getting ahead of myself. So let's now move on to the next section, which is the VCA, and that simply is a selector to say, do you want to, let's take the arpeggiator off, do you want to apply the envelope as described there, or do you want to make it an on-off as if it's this? So, and then, oops, sorry. Then if I change it to gate, it's the same, but even if I turn that off, oh yeah, that's probably because the sound's changed because of another setting, but essentially it's on and off. Yes, that's right, I've got the filter set to the envelope. Now I've turned that off, it's making no difference. But if I then come up with a more creative envelope, that's the envelope on, but the gate is still just on and off. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Gate on off, envelope according to what you've shaped there. Now it starts to get interesting. So we've done the sounding of the note, if you like, the on-offness of the note. We're now going to look at the filter, which is, I suppose you can think of it, I know people are going to say sacrilege, but as a glorified programmable equalizer, although obviously it's a bit more than that. So let's now focus on the filter. Okay, so first of all to the frequency. No, let's do that. So everything else is our frequency up to the maximum. This is the point at which the sound passes through unchanged. At the top position, the sound passes through completely unchanged. So you have a brighter sound. So on a graphic equalizer, you've boosted, or you haven't cut, the top frequencies. But as we slide it down, you're now starting to pull those graphics sliders down, and we're losing the top now, and now very, very subdued as we go all the way to the bottom, and in fact not a lot is sounding. Let's just give it. So, I guess after time I've spent my time around these regions here, and I don't spend so much time here unless we get into the second slider, the resonance. And this basically says whatever point you set the frequency, boost the sound at that point, make it artificial if you like. So can you hear that particular frequency there? Let's turn it up a bit. Getting louder and louder, and now getting ridiculous. So if I set it about middle, now set it off for the minute. So now the graphic is being pushed up, if you like, so more high frequencies coming through. But I think it's a bit like a parametric in a way, because you're sweeping on a particular point and then adding to it. So now the mid-range is really emphasised. Now it's ridiculously emphasised, apart from the fact that this is a synthesizer and you want it to sometimes sound electronic. Okay. And now you get speaker busting type sounds down there. I don't know how effective that is on the camcorder recording, but in this room that would definitely be annoying the neighbours right now. So we've done the fact that you've got a filter allowing high frequencies through, and then the boosting of the frequencies. The next thing is the envelope, which is how much control is exercised by the envelope, which we covered before. So I'm going to pan out slightly now to show you both. There you go. So you're looking at filter and envelope. So let us boost it a bit so it sounds synthy. You'd expect that to happen because we're allowing through, it's almost like an on-off, it's kind of softer on-off here. So we're allowing through the maximum frequency. But if we then go with one of my favourite type things, bit harsh, like that, we're delaying the point that we allow the frequency through, and then going back down to 0 again. Lovely. That's what I bought the SH-101 for. It's those artificial electronic sounds. Boost it a bit more, and it's ridiculous, but it's still good fun. So let's set it to something fairly typical. Now the mods is the amount of modulation applied to the filter from the modulator, which I haven't shown you yet. But essentially, well, I'll show you now.